The veil between our world and the ethereal realm is thin, especially in the darkness. It's in the shadows where our fears take shape, where our anxieties manifest into something tangible, something sinister. Tonight, we delve into 3 terrifying tales of entities that lurk in the dark. These are stories whispered in hushed tones, passed down through generations, each one a chilling reminder that we are not alone. Prepare yourselves, for the shadows are listening, and they may be closer than you think. The old Victorian house stood on a hill overlooking the town, its once grand facade now weathered and worn. It was a place of whispers and shadows, where the air hung heavy with the weight of secrets. For years, locals had spoken of strange occurrences in the old house, particularly in the attic. It was a space rarely visited, a cavernous room filled with forgotten belongings and shrouded in an unsettling silence. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long, eerie shadows across the town, a young woman named Sarah found herself drawn to the attic door. She had inherited the house from her late grandmother and was determined to uncover its mysteries. As she climbed the creaking stairs, a chill ran down her spine. The air grew colder, and a musty odour filled her nostrils. The silence was broken only by the sound of her own breath and the beating of her heart. Reaching the top of the stairs, Sarah hesitated, her hand hovering over the doorknob. A sense of dread washed over her, warning her to turn back, but curiosity, like a siren's call, drew her closer. With a deep breath, she pushed open the door. The hinges groaned in protest, releasing a chorus of creaks and pops that echoed through the silent house. The attic was dark, illuminated only by slivers of light that pierced through cracks in the boarded-up windows. As Sarah's eyes adjusted to the gloom, she noticed movement in the far corner of the room. A shiver ran down her spine as she made out the shape of a figure, tall and slender, its edges blurring into the surrounding shadows. It stood perfectly still, its back to her, as if waiting. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding against her ribs. Fear, cold and paralyzing, gripped her. Gathering her courage, Sarah took a step forward. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. The figure didn't move. It remained frozen in place, a silhouette of darkness against the dimly lit wall. Sarah took another step, then another, each movement punctuated by the sound of her own ragged breathing. As she drew closer, she noticed something peculiar about the shadow. It seemed to be shifting, as if alive with a sinister energy. Suddenly the figure turned, and Sarah gasped. 2 eyes, glowing with an unnatural light, stared back at her from the darkness. They were devoid of warmth or recognition, filled only with a cold, malevolent intelligence. Terror lent speed to Sarah's feet. She spun around and fled, stumbling over forgotten furniture and tripping over her own fear. The sound of her own screams echoed in her ears as she raced down the stairs and out of the house. Sarah never returned to the house on the hill. The memory of the shadow in the attic, of those glowing eyes that haunted her dreams, was enough to keep her away. The house remained, a looming presence overlooking the town, a testament to the darkness that lurks in the shadows. In the heart of the city, nestled between towering buildings and shrouded in perpetual twilight, lay an alleyway that had become a breeding ground for fear. It was a place where the city's underbelly thrived, where shadows danced with the darkness, and where the faintest whisper could send chills down the bravest soul. The alley was narrow, the walls on either side slick with grime and decay. The stench of garbage and stale urine permeated the air, clinging to the back of your throat like a phantom touch. Locals knew to avoid the alley, especially after dark. It was a place where bad things happened, where danger lurked in every shadow. But for some, the allure of the unknown, the thrill of tempting fate, proved too strong to resist. It began with whispers, hushed accounts from those who dared to venture into the alley after the sun had set. They spoke of a figure, tall and gaunt, its edges blurring into the surrounding darkness. Some dismissed the stories as mere superstition, the product of overactive imaginations fueled by fear. But the stories persisted, growing more frequent, more detailed, more unsettling. One man, his voice trembling as he recounted his experience, claimed to have been walking home from a late-night shift when he felt a presence behind him. Turning, he caught a glimpse of the figure, its eyes glowing with an eerie light, before it vanished into thin air. A group of teenagers, emboldened by bravado and cheap beer, dared each other to spend 5 minutes alone in the alley. One by one they emerged, pale and shaken, refusing to speak of what they had seen. As the stories spread, so too did the fear. The alley, once a shortcut for those in the know, became a no-man's land, a place to be avoided at all costs. But the entity in the alley seemed to revel in the fear it inspired. It became bolder, its appearances more frequent, its actions more menacing. One night a young woman, her mind clouded by grief and despair, stumbled into the alley, seeking solace in the anonymity of the darkness. She had heard the stories, of course, but in her state she didn't care. She felt a presence behind her, cold and oppressive, and turned to see the figure standing there, its eyes burning into her soul. It took a step towards her, its hand outstretched, and the woman screamed. Her screams were cut short, swallowed by the darkness of the alley. The next morning her body was found, her eyes wide with terror, her face frozen in a silent scream. The entity in the alley had claimed another victim, its hunger for fear seemingly insatiable. The alley remained, a scar on the city's landscape, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks in the shadows, waiting to claim its next victim. In a small antique shop, tucked away on a quiet side street, a mirror stood shrouded in darkness. It was an ornate piece, its silver frame tarnished with age, its glass cloudy with the passage of time. To the casual observer, it might have seemed like just another forgotten relic, but those who knew its secret understood its true nature. The mirror was not merely a reflective surface. It was a portal, a gateway to another realm, a place where shadows danced and whispers echoed. Within that realm resided an entity of pure darkness, a being that fed on fear and despair. Legend had it that the mirror had once belonged to a powerful sorcerer who delved too deeply into forbidden arts. In a desperate attempt to cheat death, he bound his soul to the mirror, trapping himself within its depths for all eternity. Over the centuries, the mirror passed from owner to owner, each drawn to its sinister allure, unaware of the darkness beneath its surface. Some whispered that the sorcerer's soul still resided within the mirror, seeking to escape and wreak havoc. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain. The mirror was an object of great power, not to be trifled with. One evening, a young woman named Anya wandered into the antique shop. She was drawn to the mirror, its dark surface beckoning her closer. Anya ran her fingers along the mirror's cold, smooth surface, her reflection staring back at her, distorted and strange. As she gazed into the mirror, she felt a chill run down her spine, a sense of unease emanating from the depths of the glass. She tried to look away, but it was as if the mirror held her captive. Her reflection began to change, her features blurring and shifting, her eyes taking on a life of their own. Anya watched in horror as her reflection morphed into something grotesque and inhuman, its mouth stretching into a wide, toothy grin. Anya screamed and stumbled backward, tearing her gaze from the mirror. She ran from the shop and into the street, her heart pounding in her chest, but the image of her distorted reflection remained seared into her mind, a haunting reminder of the darkness beneath the surface. From that day forward, Anya was plagued by nightmares. She would wake, the image of her twisted reflection fresh in her mind. She tried to forget the mirror, to convince herself it was all a figment of her imagination. But deep down, she knew the truth. The entity in the mirror had chosen her, and it would not rest until it had claimed her soul. As we switch off our lights and settle into the darkness of our rooms, let these stories serve as a chilling reminder. The shadows are always present, lurking just beyond our vision, waiting for the moment we let our guard down. The next time you find yourself enveloped by darkness, remember the entities that lurk there. The shadow in the attic, the phantom in the alley, the entity in the mirror. They are all waiting, watching, hungry for the fear that binds them to our world. Sleep well, but be wary of the shadows. They are closer than you think, in a cold sweat.